Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the PivotBoss pre-market video for Monday, October 22nd, 2018. I am Frank Ochoa, aka PivotBoss. Here's a look at the daily time frame of the ES. Here you'll notice that price is currently pushing back into Friday's range. And that's the key level that we need to continue to watch there. That's the level we've continued to watch overall. And that's Friday's midpoint. It's also kind of the area where price has been trading around. Basically, Friday's midpoint is the 81s. We also have anywhere in the 82 to 83 zone. That entire zone right there is very, very important near-term pivot. At the moment, this move has not hit that midpoint that we've been looking at. It's very uncommon in this situation, and usually we get that level. But anytime you see this type of behavior, we may not be done with the back and forth. It could continue to be quite choppy, up, then back, then up and back. And then we could even see a major continuation lower if price cannot reestablish back above Friday's midpoint today. That could be the case today. We could be looking at a major continuation to new lows. Having said that, again, the midpoint is very, very important. To be able to find acceptance above that point today would suggest that we could push right back up within this range and get the 28 halves sometime early this week. So again, right now we could see a lot of chop back and forth. This is an area here where we could see quite a bit more whipsaw behavior before we see confirmed directional bias. Overall, this was a significant sell-off that we've seen here recently, and anytime you see that type of move, there's a tendency to see price stay generally inside the range as it continues to chop, build energy, and then we see expansion down the way, down or up, one of those ways. But again, if we don't find acceptance above the 80 to 83 zone here pretty soon today, there could be a downside push to retest those lows, and that could lead to a retest of 2700s. That would be the next spot to watch for a buy opportunity back up if this one doesn't work out. So again, keep an eye on the midpoint of Friday's range for acceptance or rejection. And if you look at the NQ, very similar price action. You can see again, significant sell-off that we've seen here recently. Boom. This one did reach our midpoint as we would normally do, and now we could see a lot more chop trade sideways. But here's Friday's midpoint right there, and we're right at it at the moment. So that midpoint is 61.80. We are currently trading 68. And so again, acceptance above that zone would suggest that we could push higher towards 7,300 and again take out the high, but then we could whipsaw right back down again, right? Additionally, if there's a failure to get above that level today, we could be looking at new lows today as this thing perhaps attempts to retest the recent low. Anything below that low could be another opportunity for bulls to trap and return back up toward 73.18s. So again, a couple of levels to watch today. That level 68.5, very, very important at this moment. If we get a failure there, we could be looking at lower lows, acceptance above it, new highs. So again, continue to watch that level. Now if we take a look at crude oil, you'll notice here that crude has held at these lows. We've had a significant sell-off since there was basically a failure to hold above 76s. That led to a sell-off, pullback, another sell-off, pullback, another sell-off, and now we're right back at the midpoint of the key range. And so there could be some more chop in this area with a downward bias. Anytime you fail to hold above a key range like this level right there, there's a tendency to get back to the midpoint. We got it. And then there's a tendency to even attempt to go down toward the lower edge of the range. So there could be more downside. However, we mentioned that given the channel 66, 67, that could be the zone where we finally find some strength and then start to see perhaps another rotation higher within the uptrending channel. So the larger channel structure here suggests that we could see a rotation higher at some point, but we might not be there just yet. We may need a little bit more, and then we could build out for a week or 10 days or so and then start to head up in November. So again, we may not be done finding lows, but it could be soon, and then we could see a pretty significant rotation to the upside if we can find some rejection between 66 and 67. Near term, for the intraday, we have a very narrow range right now, trading just 66 ticks. That's 37% of ADR. It's been averaging $1.80 on a 10-day basis of range. Inside day, very narrow. And so if we do get above 70 here, it could lead to a short-term wave higher. And again, that could be a selling opportunity down later this week. So that's what I'll be looking for here early on. Let's take a look at gold. If you look at gold, again, we've been talking about how gold has held at these highs after the recent rally. While holding these highs is a good first step, and holding that low was the actual first step. Building this higher support and absorption was a second step. Breaking to the upside is a good third step. Fourth step is holding. It's done everything it has needed to do to really appear bullish, and this could be finally a change of bias. We are holding above the 1220s for the first time and actually holding those gains. You can see perhaps a change of bias occurring with the pivot range and also with the pivot based EMAs. So this appears bullish. It needs to get above 1240 to really reach higher. 1287 would be value in this case. However, if there's any failure to hold 1220s, there could be a serious continuation lower ahead. So not out of the weeds by any means. I'm going to continue to watch 1220 here, because even if we do break below it, if there's any failed new low there, that could be what sends this thing higher the next leg. So right now, watching to see how price responds inside of this range. Do we get a breakout to the downside first and then reject? That could be big for upside price action, so we'll see. Lastly, taking a look at the YM. Remember, in most cases when you see an aggressive impulse sell-off like this, it bounces to this midpoint. In most cases, 90+% of the time, it's going to hit that point. We have not seen it hit yet in the YM. We haven't seen it hit in the ES. And so at some point we likely get that target. But that doesn't mean, even if we get it, doesn't mean we can't come back again. Right now we are at a point here where we're going to see lots of back and forth action for a little while. And so you have to be able to take the short-term rotations right now. If price pushes to a short-term target, you got to be able to take those targets and then renew for a different at a different point, because we could come right back down and chop. That's just the nature of how this thing moves. If you see back here, again, big rotation downward, chop, 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 chop for a while before we saw direction. Big move down here, chop, 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 chop. So you're going to see a lot of that action. So again, today is very important to see if price can hold above the 25,500s. If so, that suggests much more upside ahead, and we could be looking again to hit that target at 25,930. So we'll continue to watch that to see how it plays out heading into the new week of trading. Good luck, trade well, and I'll see you in the trading room.